Well, you may remember that around 3 Sundays ago, we returned here for a nostalgic trip and a little look back at FM09, which I'd recently become re addicted to, preparing for a save later on in the summer. That was going to be related to Luton's -30 season and will still feature on a channel in late summer, early autumn. However, I got addicted to a save with one of my favourite clubs from FM09, Hamilton Academical, otherwise known as the Jimmy Mack era, with James MacArthur and James McCarthy coming through. So in part one, 3 weeks ago, we had a look at the initial findings at Hamilton in the save and reviewed what happened in our first season, which you can find up in the eye above. There's also an accompanying blog over on my website, which you can find tomorrow morning with a bit more detail and a few in-depth looks at things you haven't seen in today's video. But what I'm going to do is come back with a Season 2 review, because we have carried on the save. We've had a bit of a revolution on the pitch in terms of playing style and off the pitch in terms of age of the squad, style of play, and all sorts of other stuff as well. We've also had to manage debt because of the ending to the first episode. We'll recap all of that in a minute and go and look ahead at what happened in Season 2. But for now, if you're looking forward to the second episode of the Hamilton Academical Nostalgia Trips, then please do put a thumbs up on the video. We'll be back to our normal content tomorrow with big news from the head coach and a huge one to come on Tuesday from Southend United. But for now, it is all about Hamilton Academical from what? Now 14 years ago in the past. We've reached the summer of 2010, having played through the second season, and we're going to have a look today at a brief overview of the transfers, the results, the finances, and what's been going on in terms of our tactical style, because we've had to make a few big changes due to both saving money and the change of players that have come into the club. We also raided a relegated team. So let's move over to FM09 and we'll start with the transfer news for Season 2. So for those of you that maybe don't remember from the end of the first episode, let me jog your memory. We stayed up comfortably, we finished top of the bottom half, and we were starting to stave off interest after putting our young stars on long-term deals, both for the James Max, MacArthur and McCarthy, and also Brian Easton and James Gibson, who had become superstars. We also had Richard Offiong to worry about, but that's become a bit more of an interesting story. We'll reflect on that in a minute. But going into Season 2, we had financial trouble, because the club was forced, after surviving its first year in the SPL, to place undersoil heating at the ground. And that meant that a loss of about £3.5 million occurred, taking our finances to, well, minus £2.5 million. It wasn't particularly good. We have a look at the summary now. The bank balance has finally returned to the positive, and you can possibly work out why from the league position at the top of the screen. We'll get to that in a moment, honestly. But the big news is that we have managed a loss, we've managed to keep hold of our big players, but we have had to take a few gambles when it comes to letting more experienced players go. As you can see from the transfers overall, we've made about a 300 grand profit, and we spent a little bit in January as well. So prior to that, it was even more. We've signed a number of younger players and a number of quality players, and some of them have proven to be among the biggest bargains you'll ever see in FM. So let's start with the outs, because there were a few first team players that have moved on. First of which was Trent McClenahan, which was a pre-agreed deal. He went for 50 grand to Falkirk, who again have had a decent season. He barely featured for them. Honestly, he was pretty much a bit part player and struggled as much as he did with us. Joel Thomas went off to Motherwell for 18,000, where he's improved a bit but has now moved on to Inverness, again showing that he perhaps wasn't that great. We loaned out loads of young players who you probably recognise from the real world, your Grant Gillespie's, your Jordan Kirkpatrick's. I mean, they've all actually been quite unlucky with injury, which has made developing difficult. Kenny Duca went for free, Mark McLaughlin went for free, and the big one was Alex Neil, because we were trying to revolutionise our playing style and he became a bit of a burden to that. We were having to play 3 natural centre midfielders, when of course MacArthur and McCarthy were going to get in. And he wasn't quite as good in terms of vision, he was a bigger earner, and he was starting to play poorly towards the end of the year. So when Swansea came in and offered 150 grand, I snapped their arm off for it. It's a great deal. He's had a decent season there. Yes, he's not had the best average rating, but he's played a lot of football for them in a championship. So I think you'd say it's worked out for everyone. He's got a big pay rise, which we know he likes to move on to get them. And he's had a good season. So works out for everyone and good money made by us. And at that point, the sale of him and the calculated one of Miguel Rabosio, who only came in the January prior for 70 grand to MK Dons, basically stopped us from having to sell one of the stars because we were getting offers of towards £1 million for the likes of MacArthur and McCarthy, and particularly Brian Easton, who has been of real interest. Actually had a horrible last couple of games, but Robosio was already starting to decline physically. He really helped us the second half of that first season, and he's out of contract at MK now. But to get that time out of him, I thought was really good. And then to get a 70 grand profit, perhaps even better. Moving further down though, we did take a couple of gambles. Later on in that window, we sold the versatile George McMullen. He went for 30 grand to Northampton. Again, a profit on what we signed him for the year before, which I think was about 7 grand from Northern Irish football. A good player, a versatile player. He's had a great season in League Two. Not sure how his average rating 6.5 when he scored 9 and assisted 9. But either way, he's done his job, and again, it's benefited everyone. The final one though was in January, where we just again tried to make a little bit of money. So we sold one for 40 grand and bought one in for 16. Paul Burns went on the right wing. He was the one who wasn't happy that he wasn't getting first team football. Again, we signed him from Queen of the South the year before for 24,000. He served his purpose as a squad player. He's had a really good time at Exeter in League Two, and we made a bit of a profit. So overall, great business across the board from Hamilton. The deals in, though, are a little bit ironic because there were a few aimed to the future. There was one where we've triggered a clause, which you can see Thomas Cherney stayed. But the cheapest paid deal has been the best by a mile, and it's been the one that surprised me. So let's get Cherney out the way because we were always going to keep him. He's had a great year. 17 clean sheets in 38 games, 29 conceded. He's been magnificent. He's been a real important signing in the spine of the team. At 25 with a long-term deal, we know he's got quality as well. And he's going to be playing in Europe next season because of our third place finish. So has to take massive credit. And I was thrilled to get him, which to be fair, some of the other deals like selling McClenahan had allowed us to do. The second one is without doubt the best signing of the summer. Although that's maybe not fair on one of the free agents. Andrew Barrowman for 2 grand from relegated Inverness. They sold him because they were in financial ruin, as they did the player after. He has scored 20 in 35 games. Richard Offiong started the season with a big injury, never recovered. And Andrew Barrowman has taken over the mantle in a way I didn't think possible. A better all-round player, a better penalty taker. Not got the physical attributes that Offiong has, but has shown real quality throughout. And now, going into next season where we're going to need versatility and we're going to need options, we've got 2 really good strikers at SPL level. And Barrowman, I mean, what a signing. 2 grand for 20 goals. It's ridiculous. 100 quid each. It's not bad going. Russell Duncan was the other one that came in from Inverness. And this was the key signing tactically. £5,000 again because of their woes. We took advantage of it. 37 starts out of 38. Played in the holding role, which he's natural at, which allowed us to play a midfield 3 with balance. MacArthur and McCarthy thinking forward, and Duncan sitting in behind them. He's had a really solid year, 6.9 rating, 2 Man of the Match awards, and as you can see, he's just an experienced steady Eddie, and to get him in for, what, a 30th of the price of Alex Neil, I think we've done some pretty good business there. Less than half the wage as well. We'll try and get him a new deal because he's only got 1 year left. And then the other experienced signing was a real gem. Julian Gray we got on a free. We went for him and Jerome Thomas as a left winger. And this is the one that agreed. He's now 30, but physically still very good. Technically, he's been excellent. Got a 7.2 rating. Probably one of our best players at the club this year. 10 assists, 8 goals. I mean, again, for nothing. What a signing that is. He comes in because McMullen went, Corcoran wasn't really good enough. He signed a new lower term deal. I cannot speak highly enough of the difference that those 3 in particular have made to us this season. Great additions to the squad at the experienced end. And have also provided some good tutoring for some of the younger players as well. As we move down, the one more established player was Lionel Ajebizade. He was also from Inverness but got released first of all. He came in as a backup centre-half and left-back, played in a few games, featured in half the season, and he was solid enough. 6.8 rating, allowed us to rotate, and at 27, just a good solid backup, which again, with Europe in mind next year, is going to be really important. The next one is a name that from real life you'll know obviously in the Premier League, Matt Ritchie. He's not featured a huge amount this year, and weirdly we couldn't get him a loan deal. He's a good young player, he's got a bit of potential in him, and I'm hoping that next season with the extra games and the match load, a few of these guys will feature more off the bench and maybe start to shine a bit, because The big difference here from 3 subs to 5 that we've got so used to now is that you just can't get players on as much to feature. The next one was a signing that was spotted by the scouts and is a very good addition. Ivalo Veselinov is a Bulgarian international who we got for 5 grand from CSKA Sofia. He's 18, he's a regen obviously. Not great fitness, not great jumping reach, but as a midfielder in that holding role, gave us a real general natural backup. Just a good solid player, got stamina, got work rate, got the defensive attributes. And on the odd occasion that Duncan wasn't available and in the cups, he did really well. So again, very good signing for the price. And then the final one in January, probably by the contrast to the other players, was a little bit over the odds in terms of payment. But Simon Richmond for 16 grand is a 19-year-old right winger. He featured a few times for us. He's a decent young player. I'm not sure he's ever going to make it, but he's going to be a solid backup. He's no fuss. He's a low earner, and we'll probably make a profit on him. So overall, Season 2 in terms of transfers has been brilliant. But those 3 new additions and the one we kept, Cherney, Barrowman, Duncan Gray, have formed a huge part of the spine of the team with Easton Gibson, McCarthy, Irving we signed in Season 1. And with a couple of other players filling in the likes of Canning and Flanagan, we've built ourselves a really good team. And that is why we finished this season 3rd in the table. You look at some of the other players around that have improved. Your likes of Ian Flanagan is getting better out there. Martin Canning's had a really solid season as well. And I will show you a couple of the youngsters for development purposes. Brian Easton has just become unhappy and it really affected his last 2 performances. But we can't forget how good a player he is at the moment. James Gibson is going from strength to strength. He's become a really superb left back. And then the 2 in the middle, James McArthur. He's a standout player for any club at this level, worth a huge amount of money now as well. And James McCarthy, well, he's becoming pretty good as well. And at 19, he's still got room for development. He's not improving as quickly as McArthur, but he's having a very good season again. Lots of better average ratings. We've changed the style of play as well. And that has really benefited those 2 in particular. With others improving, with quality in the side, I'm really optimistic for the future. We look at the average ratings, Gray, Canning, McArthur, Barrowman all up there. The likes of Gibson, McCarthy, Tony Stevenson, who was back from his loan, he's up there as well. Very solid player with a weird balance of attributes. And Gary Irving, the effervescent right back, what a signing he was at the start. He's becoming a very good player at this level too. So we've got a really good squad. We've got much better average ratings. And that's partly because we're taking control in games now. We have a look at the tactical style. We've got a proper formation rather than a centre mid trying to drop in and all of that sort of stuff. We've got Russell Duncan sitting with the 2 centre halves. It's one of those where when we've got possession, it's probably a bit more of a sort of 3-4-3 because you've got the 2 wing backs pushing on with Duncan slotting in between the centre halves. You've got either Mensing or McArthur sitting in the midfield position, McCarthy supporting Barrowman and the front 3. And then when we're defending, it drops back into this shape, which gives us a bit more solidity, having someone sitting in front of that 4 and dealing with the number 10s that a lot of teams played with, which was all the vogue at this point in the footballing world. So there's no doubt that the signing of Duncan has been crucial to that, as has the signing of Veselinov, who's allowed us to have that with a backup as well. And overall, if you look at our tactical instructions, it has been a change of style completely. We're playing shorter passing football, we're playing lower tempo stuff, we're closing down and pressing a bit more because we've got a little more fitness in the team, and we're also playing a bit more aggressively. We're playing on the front foot, we're playing our defensive line slightly higher than the year before, where we had a couple of the old slow boys in. It really is working well. It's allowing us to play in the way I wanted to from the start and the way that lets our young superstars shine. So really pleased with how that's progressing. The finances, of course, are now improving, and that is because we finished 3rd in the division. A much better season overall. We've got progress on and off the pitch. We've got Europa League football confirmed. We only finished 4 points clear of Aberdeen, but we actually fell away towards the end. If I go back to the fixtures and show you, it was pretty much wrapped up with 4 or 5 to go. And then the last couple of games, we just let it drop off a little. I'll show you the goal scorers so you can see there. We only picked up, 1 point from our last 4 matches after beating Celtic, ironically, for the first time in a save in the first game after the league split. But some of the runs before that, I mean, prior to that defeat against Hearts, I don't know how long we went unbeaten. Probably since the Scottish Cup tie against Aberdeen. A run of at least 10 games. We played Celtic in there and drew 1-1, Rangers and drew 1-1. We basically go a little bit cautious against Rangers. We drop the fullbacks, we drop McCarthy. We normally put him out to the right and play a 4-5-1, or a 4-1-4-1, I should say, but with the wingers a little bit deeper. And it's really starting to work against them. They struggle to break us down. We've got quick defenders, we've got quality defenders. And I'm just really proud of the way we're playing. It's been a lovely development. It's great to see us performing at our best. And it's great to see Barrowman shining after signing for £2,000. It means we do finish third. It means it was wrapped up pretty early. And it does mean that next season, we should have European football at the group stages. I can't quite remember how it works. Let's see if it says here. Third team qualifies for the Euro Cup fourth qualifying round, which is the last one, isn't it? So there's no Europa Conference League at this stage, but we only have to win one tie to get through to the group stages. And that should allow us to have a real good go. I'm pretty sure it is group stages after that as well, isn't it? Let's have a quick look at the rules for this one. 25 players registered on the 8th of September. So yeah, at that point, it must become group stages for sure. We'll just have a quick look at the schedule. September 17th. What group's that? Yes, group stage begins. So one qualifier to get through, and we're in a good position. The other interesting news out of this season, though, is relegation for St Mirren, significantly as well, just 2 wins all year. And they've got a couple of players that are maybe worth having a look at. They did lose some of their stars last year. Andy Dorman went. They also lost Stephen Robb on the left, who we tried to sign. They've lost McGarry already for big money. In fact, Robb was still here, but he had pre-agreed a deal. I knew there was something going on. He was a player I'd have loved to have signed on the left for the future, but not to be. So there are a few left in that squad that we might try and poach just to fill the squad a little bit, offer us a little bit more strength in depth, because Europe is going to add a lot of games next year. But what a pleasing season this has been. The club is in great hands. The stadium's in decent nick. Everything else is going well. The finance is listed as insecure. That will change this year. The only thing we've got to do is keep hold of these superstars, because if we lose McCarthy, MacArthur, whoever else, yes, we'll get big money now, but it's not going to be great, is it? They're wanted by Wigan, who of course they went to. I've slapped a 15 million asking price on, but they're starting to get interest from French football and elsewhere as well now, which could be a major concern for the future. Again, I'll try and take gambles with the first team, maybe sell one backup player, maybe let's say a Flanagan go, or an Offion go, or a Jebi Zardi who's wanted, just to try and balance it out and avoid having to sell a star. I don't want to get one of those deals where the board says, this is too good to refuse, we've got to do it. So that's what we're going to be aiming for. Of course, we've not got enough money at the minute to do anything with the facilities, but the youth ones are already great. The stadium was expanded a little in the first season, and the training facilities are all right. Not ideal, but we're not going to do much with that for now. The final thing we're going to do, though, because we've just finished the season here, we got 1.7 million, which has put us in the positive now. That's how important finishing third was. Is we're going to skip ahead a couple of days where we should get our youth intake, and that'll be the final thing I'm going to show you today. Well, I've skipped ahead a couple of weeks, and we've actually got to the start of the transfer window, and there's no news on the youth intake front. So maybe that's something we'll have to do a year behind, because I struggled to get it in time in the first season as well. So we're going to leave that there, but that is our Season 2 review at Hamilton Academical. We're being linked with 1 or 2 players, but again, I think this is going to be a fairly quiet summer. It's about holding on to people, maybe adding 1 or 2 more young stars, maybe seeing if 1 or 2 are ready to be promoted, because if we have a look at our under-19 squad and the assistant reports, there are a couple that are just stagnating a bit with big potential. We met Adam Ferguson last time, who's had a good spell out on loan. Maybe it's time that we give them a few minutes off the bench in our cup games and that. But you can let me know if you think that's a good idea or not. The board confidence is absolutely magic. We're very secure. We've got, what percentage? That must be pushing on for 70, surely. Have a look at some of the other stuff. It's huge backing. They're very pleased with the leadership of the team, and our overall performance has been a particular highlight. They're not that happy with the newer signings. They're not that happy with the recent matches. But everything else is pretty good, and the fact that we've gone from safe mid-table to the best of the rest after the old firm is not a bad effort at all, is it? Hopefully you enjoyed that though. The nostalgia trip continues, and while I can't promise how long it'll take, I will probably continue a Season 3 and keep giving you all updates as I do. If you enjoyed this one though, if it's giving you a few good flashbacks, if it's tempting you to play the old games, please do put a thumbs up on the video. Let me know what you think of the squad I've built, the tactical changes I've made, and how on earth it's helped make us a very good side, as well as fixing some of the financial problems. Will we hold on to all of our stars? We'll probably find out in a few weeks' time. But in the meantime, if you want to stick with our daily content from FM24, you can subscribe and turn that notification bell on to stay up to date with everything. A big thank you to HelloFresh UK who continue to support the channel. You can find a link at the top of the description for 60% off plus free delivery on your first box, as well as 2 months worth of discounts after that. Thank you for supporting them. It helps support me as well. They're a great brand that I've used many times before. You can also find links in the eye above to the Twitch channel, the football podcast, and our 2 playlists for the long-term saves from the current game, FM24. They're all up in the eye above. But thank you very much for watching, for joining me for another Sunday nostalgia trip. And I'll see you back here tomorrow, as we've got a big decision to make in the head coach this summer.